Today, Hamas just submitted a new proposal to Israel, one that would involve the release of all the remaining hostages. Also, Iran announces that they are gearing up for a third missile attack on the state of Israel. All of this comes in the midst of tragic news on the home front and also some hope. I'm Ben Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. So far, in the first phase of the ceasefire deal with Hamas, Hamas has released 24 Israeli hostages in exchange for over 1,000 Palestinian terrorists. The current agreement included 2 more rounds of releases by Hamas that would see 6 more living Israelis returned to their homes, as well as the remains of 8 Israelis that had been sadly murdered. In a surprising move, Hamas just announced that they will be releasing the remaining 6 living hostages this coming Saturday, instead of over the next 2 weeks, as was expected. I think this is a result of quiet pressure by Israel and also by the United States on Hamas. The list of hostages set to return on Saturday include 4 Israelis kidnapped on October 7th, and also 2 Israelis that were kidnapped a long time ago, back in 2014 and back in 2015, which is insane that these guys are still in Gaza after all of these years, and amazing that they are, God willing, set to return this coming Saturday. Hamas is saying that the release will be conditioned on Israel releasing the additional hundreds of Palestinian prisoners that they have agreed to release in Phase 1, many of whom are serving life sentences for murder in Israel. And that's a really difficult thing to swallow for us, for many that support Israel, and also inside of Israel as well. The excitement in Israel over the unexpected release of the remaining 6 Israelis so soon is tempered by some very tragic news. As many expected, but were hoping wasn't true, Shira Bibas and her 2 children, Ariel and Kafir, are now confirmed dead by Hamas. What kind of savages do you have to be to tear a mother and father with 2 small children from their home and drag them into brutal captivity, then eventually through brutality or just neglect, kill the mom and the 2 kids and then hold their bodies for ransom? It's bad enough to kill a child, but to hold his body for ransom to get vicious murderers released from Israeli prison is just insane. It's not even comprehensible by my brain. As expected, the Bibas family is absolutely devastated. They have long suspected that these 3 weren't alive anymore, but we're obviously holding on to hope against hope that maybe they would be, maybe they could be still alive, maybe they could have survived captivity in Gaza. Hamas announced that they will be transferring these bodies along with another murdered Israeli back to Israel tomorrow. So we need to keep all of the family members and really all of Israel in our prayers right now and also tomorrow and over this coming weekend. All of this leads to Hamas submitting a breaking new proposal for Phase 2 of a ceasefire deal with Israel. Apparently, a senior Hamas official announced earlier today that they are prepared to release all the remaining hostages in one batch to Israel in exchange for a permanent ceasefire deal. He said, "We have informed the mediators that Hamas is ready to release all hostages in one batch during the second phase of the agreement rather than in stages as in the current first phase." He also added, "Israel's demands to remove Hamas from Gaza is laughable, a mere psychological tactic. The resistance will not leave, and disarmament is out of the question." Obviously, Israel hasn't agreed to this Phase 2 offer from Hamas yet, although I'm sure the government is in active discussions about the details as we speak. I think this offer from Hamas shows their desperation, in my opinion. Hamas knows that they're quite possibly about to have a new alternative reality forced upon them by Israel, by the United States, by their Arab neighbors, as active discussions are happening as we speak with everyone involved. And Hamas knows that dangling the possibility of bringing all the hostages home in one go is really tempting for Israel. Israel is a nation that loves life. They value life and will do nearly anything to bring their people home. And that's what makes Hamas's actions here so barbaric. They were not only willing to torture people, not only willing to slaughter people, but they continue to exploit Israel's value for life and goodness to their own barbaric ends, to bring their terrorists, to bring their murderers serving life sentences in Israeli prison back to Gaza, to release them in freedom to the streets, to repeat what they did before to Jews. In a minute, we'll get into Iran's next move with Israel, but first, when Hamas attacked Israel last October, they called the operation Al-Aqsa Flood. The message was clear. This wasn't about freedom, open ports, work permits, or anything physical. This was about spiritual domination of the Temple Mount. Radical Islam cannot rest while believers in the one true God of the Bible honor the one place God chose to set his name forever. The place God said will be a house of prayer for all nations. In response, this patch was created in Israel. On it is a representation of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, the place of God's throne. The text above simply says Mashiach, or the Messiah in English. Since its creation, this patch has become enormously popular with the Israeli combat troops in Gaza and Lebanon. Even secular Israelis are wearing them. If Hamas is going to make this spiritual, then we should fight back at the same level. Click the link in the description below so that you can wear one of these patches to boldly stand with the nation and people of Israel, to stand with the place of God's throne, staying such forever. So Iran has finally spoken out yet again about their long-expected attack against Israel from the air. If you remember, last April, Iran launched a massive air assault on Israel. Thankfully, the defense by Israel and the United States was miraculous, with only one Israeli injured, a Bedouin girl from Arad, or near Arad. Then in October, Iran attacked yet again with ballistic missiles. And in that attack, thank God, yet again, the defense was nearly miraculous. The only casualty was an Arab from Gaza, who was actually a Hamas operative, more than likely, who was killed when a fuel tank from one of the missiles landed directly on him in Jericho. Since then, Iran has been threatening to attack yet again, but so far has held back. But earlier this week, the IRGC's deputy commander said that Iran wouldn't be holding back forever. He said that the next attack on Israel would be carried out in an appropriate time, and the attack would be called Operation True Promise 3. Then yesterday, the commander of the IRGC's Aerospace Force made a statement where he said that the IRGC is prepared for any potential conflict, and emphasized that their previous attacks on Israel were the largest ballistic missile operations carried out in the world to date. He also claimed that 75% of the missiles Iran fired at Israel hit their targets, which isn't true, and that Israel fired anti-ballistic missiles in a panic during the attack, and that some of these missiles hit each other in the air, which is really far-fetched, if you ask me. He also added that despite Israel's effort to stop it, they have made significant advancements in defense and drone capabilities, such as developing 2,000-kilometer range missiles and advanced anti-missile defense systems. Some of this may be true, although it's hard to believe you're telling the truth when you preface it with two enormous lies. I think that more than likely Iran is trying to play a strong hand here. They are very nervous of Israel attacking their nuclear installations with the blessing of President Trump in America, and they're attempting to appear as formidable as possible. It doesn't take a genius to see that they are operating out of fear right now. Iran grew cocky before October 7th. They had a formidable coalition in place to bring Iran to its knees with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Syria, Iraq, and Iran's own long-range missile lineup. And so far, Israel has pretty much neutralized every single one of those threats. Thank God. The missiles didn't do anything to harm Israel. Hamas is nearly gone. Hezbollah is nearly gone. The Syrian military is wiped out. And Assad is also gone. The Houthis have gone into hibernation. And Israel has destroyed much of Iran's air defense systems. Iran is very vulnerable right now, and they are afraid of what Israel could do to them, especially having Trump in the White House again to back Israel up. But that doesn't mean that they aren't still dangerous. Often when someone is desperate, that is when we should be the most concerned. We need to continue to pray for Israel, that those in the government would have wisdom with all of this, that God would continue to protect his people, protect his nation, and we need to all continue to stand with Israel in these very, very turbulent times. Guys, don't forget to show your support for Israel by purchasing a Mashiach, a Messiah patch. The link is in the description below. Subscribe to this channel here for all the latest news directly out of Israel. Get the conversation going down in the comments. below. If you have any questions, drop them there. As always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what is happening in Israel. We'll be back here soon here at the Israel Guys.